Don't take the first non-response as a no. Right. Don't take the first no as a no.
Right.
Follow up with people, provide value to them. Don't just ask for their business. Give them something that's meaningful.
Welcome back to the Thoughts on Selling podcast. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to have Stacy Bishop join me for a fascinating conversation. What we're going to talk about, I'm not sure yet. We will get into it. The first question is, who is Stacy Bishop?
This is a good one. It's a deep one. I would tell you I am I'm a girl from the Midwest. And I mention that because I think that has defined quite a bit of myself and my career growing up in the Midwest. Lots of great values that my parents had passed along to me. But I also had the benefit of getting a start early in my particular niche, my space, which is banking and fintech sales, because the small little town that I was born and raised in happened to be the headquarters for a very large core banking provider that did business and partnerships with the likes of IBM, Unisys, other big players in this space. And that has given me this just beautiful appreciation for banking as a whole, bankers in particular, and the way in which they interact with people on their most personal just assets, their money. When you are a banker, and I have been one before, and you are faced with communicating with people on their best days and their worst days about something they feel so strongly about, their money, it is a great life lesson. It's why I would like my children to go into banking, just so they have that benefit of customer service and know how to relate to people about their money. It has served me well. I've had a chance to travel the country, communicating and working with banks. And today, just if I were to press fast forward in my little story, I work with fintech founders to help them learn how to sell to banks if they don't have that confidence or don't have that process down just yet. That's the majority of my world. The rest of it is more centered around speaking with community bankers about this space called banking as a service or embedded banking. So I'm sure you were looking for something much more succinctly, but that is me in a nutshell: Midwest, banking, fintech, sales. Boom. There you go.
That's awesome, Stacy. Thank you. So we met through Pavilion. We both have gone through the CRO school and the Outward Performance for Leaders workshop, which we did together. And I was really interested in that particular program because the focus is all about being an authentic person and an authentic leader and really understanding what other people are up to.
Gosh, yes. May I hop in here for a minute? There are some frameworks that I still think about today from that training, that being a person, a working adult that has been a working adult for decades at this stage, I am surprised I didn't know. I hadn't thought about. The one that comes readily to mind is I see the 4 squares where you as a person, if Stacy as a person, I am working with Lee, and Lee, you are a colleague or you are my manager. There is this world in which I think you have an opinion. The way you interact with me, I have a perspective on it. That informs how I then think about you, how I respond, and then what that causes ultimately you to respond. And it's this cycle that I hadn't ever thought about as much the outward thinking and turning the lens inward, and then how we position ourselves outward until that particular framework. What about you? Was there one that stuck with you from that training?
I really enjoyed being in the conversation overall. What you just mentioned reminded me of a concept that I learned in landmark education many, many years ago, and that's the prejudging of where someone else is coming from.
Yes.
And what they're going to say. And here's an example. I sometimes have an expectation of what someone's going to say. I went through this exercise at Landmark. This was many, many years ago. And we did some role playing. So the role play that I got involved in was ostensibly with my VP of marketing from a company I was chief of sales at, because I always thought she was negative about me. No matter what I did, no matter what I said, I would go to her office and say, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what's going on. And I always expected her to have a very specific set of responses. That was my listening for her. Now, her brother was the CEO. Her mother was the founder of the company. So she was in a position of power. And I had recently joined, and right. So there was this power dynamic. And she's a delightful woman, by the way. So we went through this exercise where I played her and someone else played me. And I burst out laughing.
Really?
Because it was total bullshit what I had made up. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast? Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's yours. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
We have 3 rules. You know these rules, but for the listeners, 1, it's a conversation between 2 friends about something we're both passionate about. 2, it's okay to disagree. 3, it's okay to swear. And by the way, 4, it's okay for Alfie to bark in the background. Alfie is my son's dog. So
Well, good. I'll let my dogs know that
absolutely.
too. You had this realization, and I didn't mean to just step all over your toes there, but I think of that outward performance for managers, they called that a collusion, where you are in this situation, you are in this conversation, which by the way, most of the time is not happening. You are creating this conversation.
Making it up.
If I can make it personal for a minute, my husband and I personally have had multiple instances in which he is very empathetic, very high emotional intelligence, but he sometimes thinks he knows what my reaction is going to be, and he will either try to safeguard me from something or couch something. I'm not a person that would blow up. It would have to be a horrible day for me to just take something out of context. But the conversation I've had to have with him a few times is, give me the opportunity to surprise you. Give me the opportunity to respond to this situation or what you're thinking. And I think that goes for all of us. We have this predetermined way that we think others are going to react or they are going to respond. I love that you did that exercise.
Yeah. And it blew me away. Totally blew me away. My reaction was, this is ridiculous. My preconceived notions of her reaction, they were just ridiculous. So let's take this into sales.
Okay.
So in my coaching, I tell my coaching clients, always be authentic, be who you are, and also expect authenticity from others. Go out and seek it out. And I'll give you a concrete example. One of my coaching clients, a enterprise field rep at a 3-letter company who's doing very, very well, had a meeting with 2 very senior people at an insurance company. And we were doing some pre-meeting prep. And I noticed that both of the people she was meeting with had been with a company for more than 25 years. So I said, that's a question that you can bring up, and you might be surprised at their answer as to, so why have you been with this company for 25 years? The other piece was, one of the 2 people, the person that responded to her request for a meeting, said, I'm interested in meeting with you, and I want to understand what our entitlements are, what we own from your company that we can use, and I don't want this to be a sales call.
Okay.
Great. Very clear. When customers are clear, it's always good to follow along. So she started off the meeting by saying, this is a conversation about entitlements. We will not try to sell you anything, I promise. And she followed through on that. And then she asked, so each of you has been at this company for more than 25 years. What's kept you here for so long? They talked for 25 minutes about that.
Nice.
And at the end of the hour, they got a referral to another C-level person for a follow-up conversation that happened 4 days later. So authenticity and listening to what customers have to say.
And just realizing that you're speaking to another human being and that they are more than just a transaction. They are more than just an agreement or an obstacle to your agreement, that they have a story, that there is something interesting to tell. And you know what this also brings up to mind, just going back to sometimes we have predetermined feelings about things in sales, Lee. What it also brings up in my mind, and I have been so guilty of this so many times in my career, if you have a product or a narrow set of products that you are responsible for taking to market or representing in the market, there is going to come a time in which you can anticipate what the questions are going to be, right? You're not going to be thrown a lot of curveballs. And it is vital when you get to that stage in your career that you let a person stop and ask you a question and actually listen to the question without trying to interrupt them or already arrive at an answer in your mind or just trying to rush the process to get to the next thing, to get to the next step so your agreement can be signed. They're asking a question because it's the first time they've had that question, and that deserves its own space, and it deserves some curiosity from us in the sales seat or sales leadership seat, if that happens to be us in these meetings, where we are asking, well, that's interesting. Is there a reason why that's important to you? Or is there something you're trying to avoid there? Getting to the heart of those questions without just, I've done it before where you're in a race to answer and sometimes you even interrupt. You know what the question is. It's not your first time hearing it, but we always need to be mindful that it's their first time asking that question. Have you ever been there? Have you ever had those situations happen? I know you have. I can tell by your smile.
So when I was in enablement at Oracle, one of the things we delivered was a 5-day deep dive workshop on value selling. It was an immersion workshop, right? We would literally break people down. We'd make them cry. We'd build them back up and we'd send them off on their way. We would joke around that when people came in, the typical Oracle salesperson, and I don't mean to pick on Oracle specifically, but this was my experience there. Oracle salespeople had 2 modes of communication.
Okay.
Either talking or waiting to talk. There was no listening.
So true. It's so true.
We actually showed a video of the Oracle bus showing up to meet with a client and like 5 professional salespeople, in a room talking with a couple of client representatives. And at some point in the middle of the meeting, the 2 client representatives left the meeting. And 20 minutes later, the Oracle people are still talking amongst themselves. And at the end, they go, well, that went well. They never noticed that the client wasn't there. So
that's amazing.
This is a personal soapbox of mine, Stacy.
Sure. Oh, I love these.
We fill, from an enablement standpoint, and even sales management standpoint, we fill salespeople's heads with so much technical information. They can't wait to show off what they know. And sales engineers, even worse. There's no room for listening. There's no room for actually saying, what's up for you? What are you actually looking to achieve? As opposed to, I need to tell you why 3.2 is better than 3.1.
It's so true. If I can share for a minute, I grew up inside the education space of this big company I worked for before moving into sales. So I had a challenge with this myself. I had shoved all of this information into my head. And I was that was early in my career. And I almost felt as if I needed to credential myself by how much I knew. And while that might have worked in the education realm, I quickly realized when I moved into sales, it didn't matter if I knew all of this information, if I couldn't translate it into a value or a future vision for, in my case, the banker sitting across from me or in the room with me. And I say I quickly realized, I wish I would have realized it a little quicker, but I received a great piece of advice from a more seasoned or veteran seller at one stage where he's like, Stacy, whenever people are saying yes or shaking their heads, stop selling. You don't have to tell them the rest of your information or insight or all of the other features and functions that you would hope to share.
It's time to go like this.
Exactly. It is time. That is a skill, and that is one that you kind of almost have to continually practice. Just the art of knowing when to be quiet, knowing how to listen, as you mentioned, because sellers, it's not always something we're taught. We're looking for our opportunity to, oh yeah, and then, oh, but did you know? And let me tell you about and show you this. And we're so excited, which is great. But if the people in the room are not excited about hearing it, then we're talking at them, not with them.
So here's something I learned from racing.
Okay.
And from raising children.
Oh boy.
And from gardening.
I'm going to take some notes here.
You don't need to take notes on this one. You don't need to take notes on this one.
Okay.
You have to go slow to go fast.
Oh man, it's true.
You can't put a seed in the ground and have a tree there next week. You have to cultivate and nurture. Same exact thing with children. Same exact thing with driving a car around a racetrack. If you try to go fast, you go off course. When you go slow, you find the right line through the turns. With customer relationships, the faster you go, the sooner you crash. It's funny, I'm working with a rep at another big company who is transitioning from 15 accounts to 1 account. I said, spend the next 2 weeks learning the account. It's a key account for the company. Spend the next 2 weeks learning the account. Talk to the other reps, find the customer success manager, listen to 3 years worth of earnings calls reports or read the earnings calls transcripts, become an expert in the company, and then start offering value. How can I help you? How can I help you? How can I help you? And that will come back in spades. If this person jumps in and says, I need you to look at this product, crash and burn. Go slow to go fast. Even the SDR that I'm coaching right now, I even told him that. And he has 30 calls a day to complete. And I said, Shay, you have to go slow to go fast. It's
true. And I'd be interested in your point of view on this, Lee, because I think sometimes, especially in sales, that's hard for us. Either hard for us personally or hard for us to convey to managers, or in my world in fintech, there's often investors and VC PE money in there. And these individuals are all looking for results. And so we all think we have to slam through the sales cycle when in fact, in my world, these very quick, very agile fintechs are trying to sell to a more traditional type of business segment, banking. And it's not that bankers are slow or anything like that. They have a lot on their plate. They have regulatory burdens.
They are very risk averse.
Risk averse, exactly. And they can be very conservative and very traditional. So you almost have this collision between these two worlds and between these two speeds. And for fintech, it's so appropriate to say you often have to go slow so that you can go fast. And when you're in that period of slow, it is all about relationships and proving value.
So the key question is, this is something that people can check. Am I being of service or am I serving my ego?
Ooh, I can tell you there have been times in which I have been the latter in the sales cycle, where I've been likely serving my ego a bit more. Not that I'm proud of those days. I think I've grown. I've definitely grown as a seller, as a sales leader, as just a person that operates in the space. But I don't know. What do you think? Did you ever go through a period where, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna, have you ever been through that period where it was more about your ego? I can't see
so
that
many
part of you.
times.
Really?
So
I
many
can't
times.
see that.
My manager at IDC once took me aside and said, "You're trying to be like one of the other senior analysts. You're trying to put on his persona. He's been here a while. It works for him. It doesn't work for you. Cut it out." Thank you, Rebecca Siegel. I appreciate that coaching. And that was in 1990. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah. I have an upcoming post about this very topic, where one of my biggest failures was trying to be like the most successful person that I was coming into the sales team. This is more of a pre-sales role, my first entree into sales, thinking that I had to be like them, speak like them, just dress like this lady. And there was a huge chasm between us, not only in experience, age, just personalities. So it's always best to bet on you and to be your authentic self and to bring that to the conversation and to do so with humility, I would say.
Stacy, it takes a lot of experience and a lot of maturity to realize that I can put the mask down. I can drop the mask. When I was in my 20s, I didn't know I was putting on a mask. When I was in my 30s, I didn't know I was putting on a mask. When I was in my 40s, I was starting to figure it out.
I think what helped me was, I hate to give COVID or the pandemic any more airtime than we have had, than we have given it. But I think up until then, so it was more my late 30s, I had been operating and I was the only, I'll preface this by saying I was the only female revenue leader at this company in my division. And I was acting, or thought I had to be, just like my colleagues. And I had to act like I was a working individual without children, when in fact I had, 3 young kids at home because I'm an older parent. I had this narrative in my mind, whether it was true or not. This is what I thought. I thought I needed to be like these people that devoted all this work. I like to work, so devoting time to work felt natural to me. But there's something just in the pandemic that clicked, and I thought, you know what? I am a working parent. I am married to a working parent, and this is our world. And it is a beautiful, messy world, but it's ours and it's authentic. And that's the way that I'm going to start showing up out there, because guess what? There's millions of other working parents that happen to be also in sales with quotas and people reporting to them that need to see that it's okay to be that working parent. And I decided to start showing that to my colleagues as well. Always professional, but you don't have to operate like you're anybody else.
And so what changed for you after that revelation?
Here's the surprising part. The way in which my colleagues interacted with me did not change at all.
You were making shit up in your head.
I was making it up. I had created this narrative that when I changed, I disproved to myself. And I realized that once I did it, yeah, I could still work, but I could do it under my own conditions a bit more. I could call my shots a bit more. And that's when I also started learning about and really giving thought to the work that was truly important versus the work that I had made up for myself because I thought it needed to be done. But guess what? Nobody else expected it to be done. And I found it a value and I was killing myself to do it. But at the end of the day, other people were like, oh, yeah, that's interesting, but we don't need it. So, yeah, to your point, Lee, nothing changed except the way I started viewing myself and the rules that I created for myself then.
Yeah. I'm going to go someplace now.
Okay. Am I going to cry? I might.
Yeah, we're going to cry.
Okay.
We've talked about this before.
Okay.
I learned from my dog to be present and to love unconditionally. Not long after we said goodbye to him, I started improv, which is all about being present, right? And improv is so cool. Moving on from that conversation, improv is so cool because you have to be in the moment all the time. You get to be in the moment all the time. I first really heard about improv from Daniel Pink in his book, To Sell is Human. And I took a deep dive into improv, joined a group. And here are the two cool things about improv, which is exactly like enterprise selling. One, you have to be present. You have to see what your SE is doing. You have to see the body language. You have to be listening. And two, every statement is an offer. No is not an objection. It's an offer. It's an offer, and you get to choose what to do with it.
You get to choose what to do with it. How often do we hear that no in sales and we're like, okay, I guess I'll go talk to the next person.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, I'm a big proponent of understanding the pivot, the opportunity to pivot. I was running a power hour years ago with a group of salespeople, and one of my reps got someone on the phone, 10 of us in a room, one person on speaker. And the rep said to the woman, you're involved in this project about XYZ. I have some thoughts about how you get even better results. And the woman said, you probably picked that up off my LinkedIn profile. I'm not involved in that project anymore. I've moved on to something else. Great opportunity for a pivot. Obvious questions are, really, how did that project go? Is there someone else involved now? And what are you focused on now? Great opportunity for a multi-headed pivot. The rep wasn't ready for the pivot. The rep said, oh, okay, thank you, goodbye. Click. Understanding how to pivot is so critical. And you can't think your way through a pivot.
You just have to react.
You have to be in the moment. I've become a proponent of the inner game. And the inner game originally was the inner game of tennis. And Tim Gallwey's theory is, and he wrote this book in 74, I think. His theory is, and he's proved it many, many times over, you can't think your way through a tennis swing. Your body knows what good looks like, and your body will do it if you don't get in the way. Same thing with that sales pivot.
Okay. Well, now I was with you until the tennis swing because mine is horrible. So it's just that I am getting in my own way, which is probably true. I should take some lessons too.
Think less.
Think less, just swing.
Just swing. Listen for the ball, the sound of the ball on the racket.
I'm going to look into this book. You've mentioned this one to me before, and I always find it, I love that kind of fuel, that inner work to look at just the less than obvious things. And that would not have been obvious to me. Your body knows what to do, or you know what to do in selling. I think where my mind went, I'd recently done some in-person events for a company that I represent fractionally. And when you are in front of a person and they tell you, I'm no longer involved with that project, what are you going to do? Are you going to walk away and say, okay, thank you?
Okay, goodbye.
No, you're going to do a much better job of pivoting because guess what? You're speaking to another human. You're in the same space with them. Do you think it's simply over the phone that we lack that? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts
I think you're right. That in-person relationship, you see body language. You're constrained by not exiting the conversation immediately. There's that uncomfortable pause where like you have to fill the air with something. When you move back to phone or video, you have less of that requirement to continue in the conversation. And when you move to text or email or Slack, there's even less of that. Someone can say something and you respond, and 2 days later they respond back.
That's so true.
So I'm absolutely fascinated by this. And the Inner Game Institute has been around for a while. I've actually gone through the coaching process, and I'm about to go through. Of course you have, you overachiever. And I'm about to go through the Inner Game Facilitator workshop, and I'll be offering workshops on the Inner Game methodology starting in the fall.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be one of your first signups for this because this is fascinating to me. I love that kind of work where you don't even realize why you do what you do, the good and the bad. I want to focus more on the good and understand the good. I also want to understand the opportunities to not show up as the person where I'm like, oh, okay, well, have a good day. Click. I don't want to be that person.
We talked about this at Oracle as going from the consciously competent and then the unconsciously competent. And it's that latter one where the true professionals are, and they only get there by deliberate practice. How much deliberate practice do salespeople get to do?
Do you know what? You just read my mind, because that was what I opened my mouth to say. The answer is absolutely hardly zero, myself included. Isn't that fascinating? I've often heard it likened to the fact that professional athletes spend 95% of their time practicing and 5% in the big game. But we as sellers, we spend 95% of our time, probably closer to 99% of our time in the game, pitching, doing the sales activities. And how much do we actually practice? Less than 1%, myself included, and I know better. Have you ever, just a case in point, have you ever put together a deck, like a slide deck, and you know in your mind, here's what I'm going to talk about on this slide, because I'm not going to read the bullets. Here's what I'm going to talk about. You don't practice it, but when it comes time and you're on stage and you're speaking through it, the words, you haven't practiced those exiting your mouth. So even though you have this framework in your mind, it doesn't sound anything like it, and it does not sound good.
I look up at the slide and I go, what am I going to say about that?
Yeah, I had a good one for this slide. Whether it's an actual presentation to a group of prospects, to investors, to whomever, we grossly undervalue as sellers the need to practice. And maybe it's because our own hubris. We think we don't have to. We've been successful without doing it in the past. Do you think that's it? Or are we?
I think there's a different reason.
Tell me.
If we go back a long ways, Xerox had a professional sales training program. IBM had a professional sales training program. I think Xerox was the first to really popularize it, where there was a lot of learning, a lot of practice around the skill of selling. Today, and I speak as someone who's been in enablement for 15 plus years, 99% of our enablement, unfortunately, across the tech industry is about product. We are stuffing the heads of salespeople with information about product. And guess what? The Jolt effect, here we are. The Jolt effect says customers know more about our product than we do. So why are we trying to tell our customers about our product? That's a waste of time.
So true, especially these days where they're self-educating before they even display their interest.
There are things they don't know. What are the potholes? What are the perils? What are the pitfalls? What are the opportunities? How do I make a decision? Right? And good salespeople are pattern matchers.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Consultants are pattern matchers. I've seen this before. This is how it'll play out. With this intervention, this is how it'll change. Doctors do the same thing. And when I said to my doctor, you're a pattern matcher, he looked at me and goes, you're right. People think that medicine is science. It's not. It's a series of educated guesses, just like selling.
Just like selling, there can be wildly different outcomes, just saying between the two. But yes,
yeah,
it's so true. It's one of those arenas in life where I tend to think that everyone is in sales. We're all selling something. Some of us are pitching products or services, others themselves. And it's fascinating, the different approaches that one sees to sales. And I don't mean to ask you a question, but I'm going to. Have you seen a horrible pitch this week? Here it's Wednesday. Or have you seen a great pitch? Because I know you're like me and you get pitched all the time.
I don't think I mentioned this before in this conversation. I think you and I talked about it. Last week, I was called by an SDR who up front said, this is a sales call and I won't take long. I have some thoughts about how you can improve your security parameters at your company. And it sounded to me like he was sufficiently well prepared that I was going to give him a shot. I was curious. I tested him. I said, what do you know about my company? Give me 30 seconds. Tell me about my company. And he gave me a pretty good pitch about the company. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't my company. So I said, Shay, good news and bad news. The good news is you did a good job. You were prepared. You handled the pivot well, really well. You didn't get flustered. The bad news is you have bad data. Whoever put the company information with my name in your CRM, they missed something. I don't work for that company.
Oh man, how uncomfortable for him.
It worked out. He went back and told the story to his peers and laughed. And now I'm actually coaching Shay. We're having a good time.
That's awesome.
It ended up being a win for him and a win for me because just between you and me, Stacy, I love nothing more than enabling new SDRs. I think I was his third call.
Oh,
I was his third call. And I love enabling SDRs because I get to set the expectation with them. You might be the first brand touch with that company from your company. You're going to set the stage for future communications for a long, long time. And it might have been true at Oracle with this company that Shay works at. Absolutely. And I always say selling is a profession. If indeed you are a professional, and you are because you're getting paid to do it, practice. Be the professional.
I could not agree more. Practice and self-educate, by the way. You can find people like Lee to help you. You can go out and read and do things beyond the confines of your company's training program. I think that's what real professionalism looks like. I love that you've taken it upon yourself to also help SDRs because the SDRs of today, they are the AEs of tomorrow. You guys and gals, those professionals, they are on a path that if they decide to stay in sales, will take those learnings and apply it in a different fashion. And it's also, gosh, it's also just the least comfortable point in sales because you hear no so often, and not everyone's as nice as you, Lee. Not everyone gives them the chance to make the pitch or to gently correct and give them an opportunity to learn from. There's people that are much harsher in their feedback. So kudos to you.
With swear words and banging the phone down. Actually, mostly you can't bang phone downs anymore, right? Because receivers and you just press end, right? That's it.
But you do so forcefully.
Stacy, I think we're coming up at the end of our recording time. So I'd like to ask you, what are a couple of key takeaways you'd like to highlight for our audience?
Let me think. Couple of key takeaways. We hit upon one earlier, and that's just the value of being yourself, being authentic. And that will serve you so, so well because regardless of what you're selling, what you're pitching, who you're representing, if you approach that with professionalism, but authentic professionalism, people are going to enjoy speaking with you and interacting with you more than they will a robot that dresses just like this. I know I've worked for companies in the past that had sales reps that were hired from big 3-letter company names. I think you and I have chatted about before where their suit colors had to be this or that. Their colored shirts had to be white or blue.
It's gray. It's just gray.
Apologies. Gray. And a white or blue shirt or
no. White shirt for sales, blue shirt for marketing. There's a very specific dress code at that 3-letter company, or used to be.
I apologize to the 3-letter company and the sellers there and to you, Lee, because yes, I thought it was either or. That's okay. But when you give people a chance to shine in their own right with their own personalities, always professionally, right? I cannot stress that enough that you don't get the chance to just go in and be overly yourself on a Saturday evening. No, you need to come in professionally, but let your personality shine. You don't have to be like anyone else. That's one of the biggest and best takeaways that I could offer to someone. The other thing, I mean, there's tons of things popping around in my mind, but one that I think is just overlooked or devalued, it's just the fact that we need to follow up with people. If you are communicating or trying to sell anything, any type of product, any type of service, don't take the first non-response as a no. Right. Don't take the first no as a no.
Right.
Follow up with people, provide value to them. Don't just ask for their business. Give them something that's meaningful. Because I will tell you from my own personal life, sometimes I'm not in the headspace to hear whatever somebody's pitching to me. I may be a week from now, 2 months from now, later on this year, but you'll never know if you don't continue to drip information to me or follow up with me. So I know that's pretty basic, but it's something that's hitting a bit home to me right now.
It's not basic. Make the deposit in the relationship bank account now. Make the withdrawal later. 2 other things. One was deliberate practice, and the other was, I think that's it, actually.
Oh, yeah, in this session. Oh, I should have asked. Yeah, in this session for sure. Deliberate practice and authenticity. I think those would be the two from this session for sure.
Stacy, where can people find you?
You can check me out on LinkedIn. That's likely the easiest place. My parents were a little boring. I'm just Stacy, just a CY, Bishop. Love to have you stop by, drop me a message, see if I can help in any way. That provides me great joys, being of service or being of value to other sellers out there, other people that need to figure out how to sell. You don't have to go it alone. There are people out there that can help you.
Thank you, Stacy. This has been fabulous.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure. We'll talk again soon.
All right, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.